down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your whiskey drinking, truth telling, and totally 100% flabbergasted right now host, Rick. Why am I flabbergasted? Well, so just so you understand, I go through a series where I'm setting up the show, and usually on Wednesdays that includes going out and making sure, you know, my horses are fed, and then making sure I've got all of the everything lined up, you know, for tonight. Like all the articles are up, pictures are up for the pet of the week, and you know, all of the chats are in. I've got my you know, connection into the streaming server taken care of. And, you know, I go and I've got Rumble set up. I've got YouTube set up, Facebook set up. I get all of that stuff set up and everything. I try to get that ahead of time. Well, I don't necessarily pay attention after I get things set up. I don't necessarily pay attention to what is occurring in the beginning of the chat. I mean, I'll pop in and I'll say hello and, you know, that kind of thing. But tonight I received an incredible gift in two cases. First one was the fact that I had our pet of the week submission person, Outlawed Dogs, went ahead and retweeted my 35-minute warning on Twitter to let everybody know that I'm here. Thank you very much for that. The second thing, though, is, and I got to tell you, I got to give a hat tip, total big hat tip, double, maybe even a triple. I got to give a triple hat tip to one of my avid listeners, Day, who, and I'm going to have to switch. I'm going to switch back and forth here, but only because I have to in order to be able to bring this up. But right here, I am floored. I am flabbergasted. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Day. Daybreak 3, you have I'm kind of getting choked up here because it's been, you know, 2 years and you guys have all like come back and popped in and, you know, you hang out and you chat and you get involved. I mean, conservatives are just the best people. They just are. I can't explain that enough. I really can't. Conservatives are the most giving and everything else. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of my subscribers, of course. I appreciate everybody who comes and joins and listens. I appreciate all the hard work that several people have put in. Not because I asked. I didn't ask for a lot of things, and I really don't. I'm not that kind of a person. But I appreciate you being here, listening to me, and helping me expand the broadcast, expand everything. You people are like, you're the first ones. If I ever win any awards, I'm telling you, my wallet's going to be empty because I'm going to have to figure out how to get all of you people to like come to the award show so I can thank every single one of you in person. Wow. Just this is it flabbergasts me. All right. I am very, very thankful to all of you. Thank you very, very much. I do appreciate that. And if you are on one of my other outlets like YouTube and Facebook, they don't get a lot of traction, a lot of action because of the fact that I am conservative, as if you couldn't tell from what's behind me. But I am conservative, and so therefore those are run mostly by liberal left people that have troubles. In fact, I don't know if I have probably mentioned it a couple times before. I've had some haters pop up in YouTube before that, you know, it's just like kind of, yeah. Anyway, all right. All of that has nothing to do with tonight. Absolutely nothing to do with tonight, but it definitely warranted mentioning. All right. First things first. I was asked not too long ago by a friend of mine. And they basically said to me, they were like, hey, you know, in today's day and age with everything going on, you have just a plethora of things to talk about. And while this is true, the point was, or the question that was asked was, what happens if everything starts going your way? And when what he meant by that was, you know, obviously the elections and the direction the country's going. First of all, you have to understand that if we end up in a situation where the country's going in the proper direction, that still doesn't mean that there aren't going to be stupid people, and that still doesn't mean that the government isn't going to do something stupid. So I will always have conversations and topics in order to bring to you in a hopefully entertaining and educational light. That being said, if that were to happen, I would just have to up my interview game. And in order to do that, I have an announcement. This next episode on Saturday night, I will have Jay Money from the Mark K Show. He is the engineer / producer, the guy that sits in the booth, took over for that other guy who shall not be named. And I have him for an exclusive interview on Saturday. He has agreed to be available for the entire hour. And so, honestly, I may not get to the question of the week on Saturday, but I think that's okay. I've got a lot of questions lined up for him, and he is excited. I am excited. And hopefully that excitement will pass on to all of you as well. Hannah did an absolute wonderful job for me when I interviewed her. And now I've got Jay Money coming to the program. He is larger than life, and he will definitely be here for Saturday. We're going to do a little tech check tomorrow night just to make sure everything is functional and working for us. But I am very excited for that. Okay. So I haven't done one of these for these people, so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then I'll get to a poem, and then we'll get launched into the program. Let me make sure I've got the right person. Okay. Oops. Might help if I go back to the right one. There we go. All right. If you honor and value our God-given right to self-defense by owning a firearm and would appreciate joining a community of like-minded individuals who welcome firearm owners of all experience levels, then you should consider joining the NCCA. The National Concealed Carry Association, NCCA, exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing a nationwide network of Second Amendment advocates, offer elite self-defense and concealed carry training from the nation's top instructors, and provide rock-bottom prices on the best selection of gear and accessories. NCCA members enjoy shopping thousands of products with zero dealer markup, unlimited free shipping, and keep more money in their pockets with zero credit card processing fees. The NCCA encourages safe, responsible concealed carry and celebrates those who are brave enough to protect not only themselves, but their families and their communities. If this sounds good to you, visit nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com to join today. As a special bonus, use my affiliate link, ncca.refr.cc/Rick, RICK02, to receive a code for 10% off any purchase at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com. Once again, use my affiliate link, ncca.refr.cc/Rick02, and receive a code for 10% off your purchase at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com. Visit nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com, that is all lowercase and all one word, to find out more today. And I thank them for allowing me to be a brand ambassador, National Concealed Carry Association.com. All right. And it looks like everybody's popping into the various chats and seeing the show on Saturday. Everyone's looking forward to it. So I certainly hope that I'll be able to, push it along in the right fashion. Okay. So tonight's poem I'm going to give it a shot. I was warned that I should read through it a couple times and practice first, so I did do that a little bit ahead of time. But tonight's poem is called Freedom Is Not Free by Kelly Strong. Once again, that's Freedom Is Not Free by Kelly Strong. I watched the flag pass by one day. It fluttered in the breeze. A young Marine saluted it, and then he stood at ease. I looked at him in uniform, so young, so tall, so proud. He'd stand out in any crowd. I thought how many men like him had fallen through the years, how many died on foreign soil, how many mothers' tears, how many pilots' planes shot down, how many died at sea, how many foxholes were soldiers' graves. No, freedom isn't free. I heard the sound of taps one night when everything was still. I listened to the bugler play and felt a sudden chill. I wondered just how many times that taps had meant amen, when a flag had draped a coffin of a brother or a friend. I thought of all the children, of the mothers and the wives, of fathers, sons, and husbands with interrupted lives. I thought about a graveyard at the bottom of the sea, of unmarked graves in Arlington. No, freedom isn't free. And once again, that is Freedom Is Not Free by Kelly, Kelly, Strong, in case you want to look it up. You know, one thing about taps is I spent 4 years listening to taps going off at 11 p.m. every single night. And it still gives me goosebumps to this day, even though I spent 4 years listening to it as signaling basically the end of the day and it was time to go to sleep and move on. There's a lot of things that people don't understand necessarily about the whole idea of serving in the military. Even those of us who didn't really do a whole heck of a lot, there still is, when we sign that contract, there still is that opportunity where you basically sign a blank check payable to the United States government and her people, up to and payable in the amount of up to and including your life. And, you know, regardless of whether you actually did something, served in a combat zone or something along those lines, or you just stayed out of it, you know, and served your country with whatever honor and distinction that you could do within your normal everyday activities, you still provided that blank check to the federal government to be cashed at any single point in time. So as always, this show will always thank our service members, our firefighters, our police. We will always back those individuals who put their lives on the line every day in service to others. And I will always get goosebumps at taps, especially. I mean, I would never do. I'm telling you, if I was ever the president, I would never look at my watch when the bodies of our fallen soldiers are coming back and passing me by. I have way too much respect for them. In fact, I would even feel guilty saluting them, getting onto, you know, Air Force One or Marine One or any of those others. I would feel guilty saluting them because they have done and are doing so much more for the American people than we actually deserve, especially now. All right. I am getting pushed to say hello to Danny, aka Fat Paws. Yes, Fat Paws. All right, Danny, there you go. There's your shout out. Okay. Thank you for joining. I do appreciate that. Okay. All right. So we're speaking about respect and everything else. We're speaking about and talking about, you know, the direction this country is going, and especially the attack on Mar-a-Lago. And yes, I did say attack. I did not misspeak in that sense. And I've got some information on that tonight. But what's even worse than all of that, other than the fact that our government entities are being utilized to attack conservatives. We saw it during the Obama administration when the IRS was weaponized to go after conservative 501c3s. We are seeing it with the declaration by the Department of Homeland Security, not once but twice, to talk about domestic violent extremists, DVEs. And we talk about, and we've seen things like the FBI raid, the Mar-a-Lago thing, but we've also seen some transmissions where they talk about things like what's behind me here as being a symbol of domestic violent extremism. And you know what? I just realized I have not told anybody what I'm drinking. So let me do that real quick before I jump into this. So I am back to, I did this Saturday. I did essentially a whiskey sour. And I tossed one together tonight, but this time I'm using the Pabst Blue Ribbon whiskey, the PBR Blue whiskey. And this usually, like I've said before, when you guys have seen it before, usually this comes in a clear color. I actually put it into a whiskey barrel for a couple of weeks to kind of give it a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor. And I'll be honest with you, that little bit of flavor that I added to it is a bit of an aftertaste in the whiskey sour tonight. So it's not the same as what I had on Saturday. On Saturday, I had the shoot, I can think of the bottle, but I can't think of the label. Anyway, so yeah, so here we go. All right. Like I said, it's got an interesting little like after bite, which, you know, comes from the whiskey. I know it comes from the whiskey. All right. So in conjunction with stuff like this behind me, you know, the Don't Tread on Me, I'm trying to figure out which side to go. Don't Tread on Me. You've got the, you know, the Betsy Ross flag. You've got all of these other symbols that are used. The Atlantic came out with a disturbing article on the 14th. And let me go ahead and bring that up here. This is a really disturbing article because this person, Daniel Panneton, Panneton, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. I don't really care. But he basically wrote this article talking about how the rosary showing up next to AR-15s in photos online is an extremist culture trying to grab and grasp the rosary as a symbol of extremism. And I'm going to read you just this first. I'm just going to read the first paragraph, actually first and second paragraph of this for my audio listeners so that you guys can hear the entire thing. But from the article, it says, just as the AR-15 rifle became a sacred object for Christian nationalists in general, the rosary has acquired a militaristic meaning for radical, traditional, or rad-trad Catholics. On this extremist fringe, rosary beads have been woven into a conspiratorial politics and absolutist gun culture. These armed radical traditionalists have taken up a spiritual notion that the rosary can be a weapon in the fight against evil and turned into something dangerously literal. Their social media pages are saturated with images of rosaries draped over firearms, warriors in prayer, Deu Volt, which means God's will, or God wills it, Crusader means, and exhortations for men to rise up and become church militants. Influencers on platforms such as Instagram share posts referencing everyday carry and GAT check, GAT being a slang for firearm, that include soldiers' battle beads, handguns, and assault rifles. One artist posts illustrations of his favorite Catholic saints, clergy, and influencers toting AR-15 style rifles labeled Sanctum Rosarium, along violently homophobic screeds that are celebrated by social media accounts with thousands of followers. All right, well, first of all, I need to make absolutely clear the rosary, yes, is considered in the Catholic culture as a weapon against evil. And the reason for it is because you're supposed to pray on it twice a day. And you pray on the rosary and do different things on each daily piece. So you have the different what they call I'm trying to think of what they're called. I can't think of the term, but anyway, on each bead you have a specific mystery that you are supposed to, and maybe that's what they call them, is mysteries, but you have a mystery that you're supposed to pray on. Now, obviously I am outing myself here in terms of what I'm about to show you. I'm outing myself as not someone who has done a consistent job with this, but if this flag, and knowing that I fly a Don't Tread on Me flag every day, and I'm looking to get a Betsy Ross flag because I happen to like the setup. Take a look at this. This is a rosary that I purchased with the sole intent of course, rekindling my Catholic upbringing. And this is specifically a male style rosary. You'll notice the one that was in the photo, it seemed a little fragile, let's say, done with some smaller strings and things like that. This one that I purchased is actually made out of zipcord. So it is literally very, very strong just on its own. And it's been knotted properly with the proper beads placed in it, and then the knots are in between. And then this, I have like a, essentially the Crusaders style helmet here. So I guess I am a violent extremist, even more so than just the fact that I've got this stuff behind me and my political views. Oh, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And yes, it comes with a cheat sheet. This is actually from a company called Rugged Rosary. If anybody's interested in getting a male version of a rosary rather than some of the more female version, this is the Rugged Rosary. And this is it comes in a bag, but this is the image that they use for their logo, Rugged Rosary. I believe it's ruggedrosary.com. Anyway. So, yeah, I guess, some groups, I suppose, can go and grab these things and make them into something. I mean, the alternate right or the alt-right people and, they've grabbed like some Nazi images and things like that. But realistically, I mean, that's like a very small fringe group of people. That is not the general consensus of people. So, I'm sorry, but guys, Department of Justice is barking up the wrong tree here. Literally, they are barking up the wrong tree. I wish they would quit, because all this is doing is just further fueling the fire for people to actually do something stupid, which honestly, that is literally, I think, what they're going for, is they want us on the right to actually do something stupid. And of course, they want to block President Trump. So, I spent Saturday, I talked a lot about President Trump and the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I just want to bring up some of the articles that have since come out. I don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on this, because I think pretty much a lot of the other pundits have been pushing things around and have talked about this to death. But I definitely want to bring up a couple of things here. First of all, President Trump had full constitutional authority to declassify anything that he wanted. And this is coming from Mike Davis. Now, who is Mike Davis? He is, let me see. He's a former clerk for Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. So he is obviously a legal scholar and essentially has, said that, hey, President Trump had constitutional authority to declassify anything, which, I told you this. Everybody on the right has been telling you this. I mean, this is this is hashing old news because everybody seems to think that there had to be some sort of a process that they were putting, the Constitution didn't give the president the power to do so. I'm sorry. It is the case. It is what it is. And that's all that I can tell you as far as that goes. To further attack this, the Biden administration, and this is actually part of some of the things that makes you go, this one in particular brings in an interesting question, because I guess obviously Trump and several Republicans stood up and they essentially said, hey, you unsealed the search warrant, now unseal the affidavit. And they've been calling for this over the last several days. Well, tomorrow is a meeting, I guess, or a court hearing where the judge is going to listen to both sides of the argument and decide whether or not to unseal the warrant. Unseal the affidavit. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with legalese, affidavits are used in order to basically justify the reason for getting a warrant. It also will outline how the officers or the legal arm, meaning if it's the FBI or the sheriff or whoever, the law authority would understand and know, first of all, what it is that they're going after and where they're going to look, which under the Fourth Amendment is required in cases like this. To have just what they call a general warrant sworn out was something that our founding fathers did not want to have happen, because that, of course, like I've told you on this program before, almost everything in the Constitution was a direct result of the founding fathers' experience during the Revolution and the period leading up to the Revolution. And so one of the things that is happening here is they tried to make it to where you could not just have a general warrant, because that's what the redcoats were doing. They would sign out general warrants without any provocation whatsoever. They would go after people. They would just search their house to search their house. They would just say, oh, well, this person, happened to show up in a meeting. We saw him there, so we're going to go and search his house and see if he has anything that might indicate that he is part of the resistance. And so the Biden administration urging the court to keep the Trump search affidavit sealed is suspect. It honestly is. Now, they do have a explanation, which is essentially that, it would ruin, this and other investigations, which basically means that they have something else up their sleeve, not just searching the house for documents that were missing. My guess is that they are searching for things to try and get him on with January 6th, because as I pointed out to you in my last episode, the chances of him actually being barred from becoming president in the future with these charges that they've brought they're pretty slim. They're very slim. In fact, I don't even think it's going to happen. But the point being is that the Biden administration trying to keep the search affidavit sealed is very telling, in the fact that, first of all, you have just the general warrant, which, speaking about that, yes, it was a general warrant. Wrong one. This is the wrong order. So he apparently, during the search, they apparently grabbed Trump's passports. Now, CBS came out and said, you know what? They actually have never had them. Well, there is an email that essentially said, we took them by mistake, and we took them by mistake. And so therefore we went ahead and we're going to give them back to you. But just the fact that they have them and did not mention them as a part of the itemized list, the receipts afterward, is an indication that these the officers that were executing the warrant had carte blanche instructions to just pick up anything and everything. I mean, this really does not make anything look all that great if you're part of the FBI and part of all of this. I mean, how many lies have we been told already? We've been told that Garland didn't know, and then he comes out and says, yes, I did it. He, we were told that, oh, they're searching for specific documents, especially things like nuclear codes. No nuclear codes, as far as we know, have been found. And even if they were, they would be old anyway, because contrary to popular belief, they actually do rotate those codes for every single president. In fact, they probably rotate them even more than that. As anyone who is interested in security would actually do. So just like you're supposed to rotate your passwords and everything else. So because of the broadness of this warrant and everything that's being tossed about, the question becomes, is this actually unconstitutional? And because of the fact that the Fourth Amendment talks about, the Fourth Amendment itself talks about it has to be described specifically. You have to give an indication like okay, we're going to find this, we're looking for this particular item. Let's say we're looking for a gun, and that gun has to be found in the, the bedroom of the person who is being served. Okay. So it's those kinds of things that were written into the Fourth Amendment for this specific reason. And it also means that it has to be upon affidavit, meaning that the law officer has to stand up before a judge, hold their hand up, and swear that the information they're about to give is true and correct, and that they believe without a shadow of a doubt that that whatever this thing is, whatever it is that they're looking for, is physically at that residence, and they need to supposedly describe in a more specific fashion what it is that they're looking for and where it's located. This did not show up on the warrant. The warrant was very general. It was wide ranging in terms of dates. It was wide ranging in terms of where these people could look. So it essentially, by all accounts, from what we can tell, is essentially a fishing expedition. I mean, let's just face it. It's a fishing expedition. And we know this. They know this. And unfortunately, it's going to get away, from the FBI very quickly, because the truth is, and the different pieces are coming out from this. But there's even more information that makes this more of a fishing expedition and not a extreme emergency where potential classified documents that would harm the U.S. under the Espionage Act would have actually been found. And that little piece, I kind of showed it earlier. Unfortunately, it was out of the order, but this comes from Town Hall in particular, that the latest Trump raid development totally shreds the FBI's narrative. And what that is that apparently attorney Merrick Garland deliberated for weeks, not just 1 week, not just 2 weeks, but for multiple weeks over whether or not to approve the application for a warrant to search Donald Trump's home. Okay. And this is coming from sources familiar with the matter. And so he, at one point, the left has been saying, oh, this is a matter of national security. It had to happen quickly. Yet they were there in June. And in June, they didn't ask for anything. In fact, the only thing that they did do was ask for a more secure lock to be installed by the Secret Service. Then they said attorney Merrick Garland did not know about the warrant. He clearly knew, and he actually admitted the fact that he signed off on it. They said that it was a matter of national security and something that they had to do immediately. It was an emergency to get this information back. Apparently that's not true, because Merrick Garland deliberated for weeks whether to approve the application. So this also brings a good question into mind. At what point did the affidavit actually, and the person who was likely listed in the affidavit as the informant, when did that person come forward to provide the information for Merrick Garland to actually say, you know what, let's go and get a warrant? Okay. So again, I'm sorry, but these people are if they are supposed to be the smartest people in the world, they are sure acting incredibly stupid. They have got all kinds of holes in this entire thing that it basically looks like a colander. It looks like a colander and is not going to fly for anybody with half a brain on their shoulders. Now, the sycophantic left, of course, that's another story. But the thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot of smart people who are in the legal profession, who are on the right-hand side and are looking at this and going, yeah, you guys really stepped in it. You essentially stepped into your own poop when you did this. Now, one of the things that the right has been talking about over and over and over again, that they really wish the left really wishes would not be brought up, is the whole idea of the kid glove light touch that the FBI did with then Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton with her server that was unsecure, kept at her home, with the BlackBerries that they destroyed with hammers, and the bleach bit whole thing for the server. They're, that's the left is like, well, mirroring Clinton's own voice saying, well, what difference does that make now? At what point difference or what difference? Yeah, I can't even do the quote right because God, she's horrible. Anyway, this article coming from the Washington Examiner, thankfully, Chuck Grassley is going after these people. I got to tell you, I am highly impressed with this person, with this man. Chuck Grassley is going after the whole Hunter Biden laptop. He is going after things like this with the FBI. This is just absolutely amazing. This man, I'm telling you, if you live in his state and he's up for re-election anytime in the near future, go ahead and re-elect him. This guy is like a pit bull. He is going after these people. He's sort of like Rand Paul in a way, going after Fauci. He's got his teeth into this bone and he's got a taste for it and he's loving it. He's going after these people consistently. This is just amazing. And realistically, if we win the House and the Senate, there should be absolutely, and thank you, Buddy actually popped it up. Well, it figures. Hey, Idaho is a red state. I like that. They're our neighbors. They're our neighbors. But anyway, if you get a chance to vote for this guy, I'm telling you, he is just one of those people, kind of like Ron DeSantis. He's really impressed me with the way that he's been going after these things. And he's not going after them just because he's going after them, kind of like, Liz Cheney was doing. Thank God she got boosted, or booted, I should say. But he's going after it with a purpose. He is really, really pushing this because he's got information. He's got stuff here. And he wants answers. And I think everybody does. Everybody needs to ask that question. So this is incredible that he is doing this. So hats off to him, applaud to him. I appreciate his push. Now, one of the things that we keep hearing from the left in terms of this whole thing has to be talking about how this is going to keep Trump from running in 2024, because ultimately that's what the left wants. I mean, everything, whether it's January 6th, whether it's, whether it was the impeachments, whether it was the Russia hoaxes, they are so scared. This guy is like Superman to their Lex Luthor. They are trying desperately to find the kryptonite that is going to take this guy down. And, I got to be honest with you, there's got to be a real reason. I mean, I just can't understand if Trump was not a serious threat to their way of life. I cannot imagine why they would be going after him this hard. That being said, I don't even think that if this came through, I know for me, if something like this came through, I don't even think that this would be that big of a deal. And it turns out I'm not the only one thinking that. So Alan Dershowitz, who is a left-leaning, he studies the Constitution. He's a lawyer, and he's a law professor, but he's left-leaning. He's not even like a right-leaning. He's not a conservative, but he's more of what I would consider the old style of Democrat, meaning in the middle of the road and basing things on facts and evidence. And what he's essentially saying in this piece is that, you know what, arresting or convicting Trump is not going to keep him out of the race. Okay. And the reason being is because of the fact there are only requirements, as Buddy brings up, the only requirements to keep somebody out of the race has to deal with what's in the Constitution. You can't add statutes, which is essentially what they're going after right now. Anything with the 18 USC section, whatever, all of that is congressional statutes that have been added on after the fact. The Constitution is the law of the land. And if he does not violate anything within that Constitution, regardless of whether he's been arrested or convicted or anything else, none of that shows up as a part of the Constitution as a reason for keeping him out of office. As long as he does not get violate those 3 or 4, I think it's 4 or 5, actually. I think it's 4 requirements for him to be in office. And one of them is simply his age. I mean, he's attained the age of 35. He is a United States citizen. So guess what? That's 2 right off the top. So there's no way that they're going to stop him. Why? I mean, the only reason that I could think of that they would be doing this is because of people who are not as educated as all of you in my audience, who understand the Constitution and understand the reasons and understand the intricacies of our government system, to present things like this in the hopes that maybe they can keep him out because of the court of public opinion. All this is doing is just adding fuel, really adding fuel to the fire in this particular case. Okay, so I mean, again, this is a pathetic attempt, and I do say pathetic, and I'm not taking that back. This is a pathetic attempt by the Department of Justice to go after somebody who apparently is a big threat to the plans of whoever is in charge, because it certainly isn't Biden. I'm going to tell you that right now. All right. Okay. So before I get into my next subject, I have as soon as I can figure, because God, I got to get used to these things. These are just, I change everything around all the time. But anyway.
Please check your mailbox. A new message has arrived.
And here we go with the pet of the week. This week's submission is the Outlaw Dogs. Yes, they are actually the Outlaw Dogs. Oops, let me get rid of that. They are the Outlaw Dogs. Welcome to the program. Bonnie, who's the white. Clyde, who's in the center in the black. And Billy, their kid. Billy, their kid. So apparently, and I didn't, unfortunately, Outlaw, and this is submitted by Outlaw Dogs, by the way, that's their screen name. They didn't really, Outlaw Dogs didn't really specify what their breed are, but I'm going to hazard a guess, knowing that, Bonnie seems to be, very intelligent as some sort of a terrier breed, because I do see, I have a Amstaff half, half Amstaff. And so that look with the ears, the facial structure looks to me like they are some kind of a terrier type breed. I don't necessarily go off of color, but given that, they might have a little bit of potential boxer or something like that in there. My guess is that they're basically, some sort of a mix, and hopefully Outlaw Dogs will mention something here in just a minute. But welcome to the program. They wrote me a nice little email, by the way. They said thank you for, they actually thanked me ahead of time for coming on the program. They said thank you for allowing us to show up and for choosing us as Pet of the Week. And they also told me that they are avid listeners of the Mark K Show. And as avid listeners of the Mark K Show, they actually have their favorite segment. Their favorite segment on the Mark K Show is coming up tomorrow. That favorite segment is Conspiracy Theory Thursday. And they have been outfitted, of course, with their own tinfoil hats to help repel the bad waves that are coming in. And so they outfit themselves every Conspiracy Theory Thursday with these hats, and they listen intently. Just look at the intense looks on all of their faces as they listen to the Mark K Show Conspiracy Theory Thursday, which is coming up tomorrow, by the way, on the Mark K Show. Great show. I advocate it all the time on all my social media accounts. Obviously, I'm a big fan. The Outlaw Dogs are big fans, and I appreciate Outlaw Dogs, their mom, for submitting their photos for the Pet of the Week. This is incredible. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing them with us. If you would like to submit your pet for Pet of the Week, please send me an email with their photo, your name, what you would like to be called on the air, and obviously some breed, some information, maybe age, name, whatever information you want me to pass on to the listening audience. And you can submit that to fans. That is F as in Frank, A as in Alpha, N as in November, S as in Sam. So that's, and I said that wrong. I did that phonetically in two different sects. Fans, Foxtrot, Alpha, November, Sierra at whiskeymusings.online. It's got to be .online, not .net, not .com, not .edu, none of those. It's .online. So fans at Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, .online. And you can submit your pet of the week for the Wednesday night show. And I appreciate that. I like looking at these dogs. I like looking at animals, cats. I have cats. I have dogs. I have horses. I don't get into too much exotic stuff, but that's okay. I'm more of a general kind of guy. But these cuties are they're ready to go. I mean, just look at them. All right. Thank you, Outlaw Dogs, and thank you, Bonnie, Clyde, and Billy, their kid, for joining us this evening here on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. All right. So they've been going after Trump for January 6th for quite some time. And unfortunately, there's a couple things that have sort of slipped through the cracks when it comes to January 6th. There's been a lot of focus on the riot itself at the Capitol building, but there was another very odd situation that happened during that event, during that series. And actually, this is kind of a hat tip to Dan Bongino. He started focusing on this, as a conservative broadcaster like myself, who only does it a couple days a week. I tend to find articles that I want to talk about. And next thing I know, somebody who is in the much bigger following sphere picks it up and, of course, takes it on and everything else. And so I end up with the essentially the table scraps. But this, he didn't kind of mention, he didn't tie this together. Okay. So I'm just going to point this out to you because there is a guy who was on January 6th who has sort of slipped into obscurity. He was a big conversational item when it first came off. And hi, Piddly, just throwing that out there. Let's go ahead and pull Piddly up. There's Piddly. Hello. Thank you for joining. But this one gentleman has been sort of obscure within the news. And that gentleman happens to be Ray Epps. And let me get that up here. And so Ray Epps has, started on storm at first because a lot of people were like, hey, he's an FBI plant. He, was trying to instigate stuff, that kind of thing. And, realistically, he keeps saying, and he has said on the record that he is not an FBI plant, that he doesn't work for the FBI. Now, I'll be honest with you right now, question everything. Do not take anything at face value. However, it does seem a little weird that Ray Epps told the FBI that he expected a bomb attack near the Capitol on January 6th, according to documents. Now, he admits to trespassing. He admits to directing protesters to go into the Capitol. And there's actually a video that's part of this article. I'm not going to play it. But he does in the video say, hey, we need to get inside that building. I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying that what we need to do is we need to go forth and we need to get inside that building. Now, the funny thing about it is Ray Epps is out walking around free, while other people who were basically arrested for trespassing have been sitting in jails, like the question of the week on last Saturday had mentioned. They've just been sitting there being denied their due process. In that case, the speedy trial. And some of them have actually committed suicide while in holding. I can only hope that there will be some type of an investigation and some type of recourse that is taken by these people, or taken for these people who have tragically been pawns in a very, very hot political game. But that being said, it is very, very interesting, and this piece comes from the Epoch Times, but it's very, very interesting that Ray Epps literally told the FBI that he expected a bomb attack. And why do I say that? Because you have this article that came out of the Revolver. Now, not a lot of people are tracking the whole January 6th bomber scenario because it's sort of fallen through the cracks given all of the things that we have going on. However, what is really odd about this, and I've got to show you this image, and this is the image taken from apparently a security camera due to its graininess. But if you look at this image of this bomb, and there's a few key things that you can note. Now, Dan Bongino covered this extensively in his podcast. That's why I'm not really covering it as in detail, but there's a few interesting things that you can take a note looking at this. And especially if you grew up in the 80s and watched any kind of action programs on television or movie in the 80s. This looks like it was a prop. And why am I saying that? Because of the fact that you have what appears to be an analog egg timer attached to the front of it. For those of you that don't know, who may not cook, that egg timer is that white round thing that you can see prominently displayed in the upper middle with the pipe below it. Now, here's the thing is that they were told, or we've been told, that the inside of this thing actually had explosives in it. They were live explosives. They were treated as such. That being said, the area was admittedly swept, supposedly, by the Secret Service, outside of the DNC in particular, because the vice president-elect at that point, Kamala Harris, was going into that area for an unscheduled visit. And so they went ahead and they may have swept it. Maybe they didn't. I don't really know 100%. But I can tell you one thing, that even if they didn't sweep it with dogs, the Secret Service at least walked the area very quickly ahead of time. Now, the thing about this is with egg timers that a lot of people don't understand is that egg timers are used for cooking. They are not just for eggs. They are used to cook other things. This timer, and you can look them up online. They are analog. They are basically an alarm bell that you set. It starts counting down the minute that you turn that dial past, a certain point. In most cases, it's like 5 minutes. and you spin the dial and then you get it to count down. Something like this, and I'm looking at these little blobs that you can sort of see surrounding the face of that. I've actually gotten, because of my other work that I do, I've actually gotten pretty good at reading numbers and things like that. These numbers that are on here are not designed to go beyond an hour. So it doesn't look like this egg timer device was really set up to do more than an hour. But according to the video evidence that's being presented, the bomber actually placed these things close to 17 hours earlier. All right. And to have a thing like this, where it's a mechanical spin dial to set, and when you immediately let go, it starts counting down. To have it go for more than an hour, or in this case, if you look at the dial, it looks like it's even going down to 40 minutes. It looks like it maybe has 20 minutes left to it. This is a big question. And this article that I have in here, I encourage you to read it. It's in the show notes. Go to the Revolver, read it. They get really, really detailed in the analysis of this thing. And I'm just going to tell you right now, this seriously looks 100% suspect. And to have the device itself, because it was described as having failed at 20 minutes till, if you think of the timeline, 1 p.m. Eastern time was when they were going to start counting the electorate. A device like this was found at the DNC. A similar device was found at the RNC. If the report came in at 20 minutes ahead of time, okay, what do you think would happen if the report came in that there were devices at both the RNC and the DNC? Okay. What would happen? Well, I can tell you that the Capitol Police would have divided their forces. They wouldn't have been able to be at full strength at the Capitol building for the essential civil unrest that occurred there. So the question has to be asked, if this thing, first of all, is fake, and second of all, set to be discovered at a certain point in time, and wasn't discovered in time or wasn't discovered until such time, there's just way too many questions that are not being answered in terms of the situation here at both the RNC and the DNC, and what happened at the Capitol building on January 6th. There's just way too many questions than there are answers. And it's these kinds of things that the January 6th committee should actually be going after. Okay. They should be going after stuff like this, but they're not. They're leaving it alone. And the question is, why? Why are they leaving it alone? Why are they not doing the investigation to this kind of a situation to understand what might have been going on? And why is it that the only video evidence that we're able to find does not have, or that we've been able to see, does not have a clear view of the suspect actually placing this item? They have the images that I've seen that have been publicly available. There's 2 benches that are sitting there. This is next to, I believe, bench 2. The person goes over to bench 2, sits on the end, bends down, supposedly places the device, and this is at night, then gets up, goes for a quick walk, comes back, sits down on bench 1, but they never change the angle of the video to see if they can actually see the face of this individual. Now, there's one other thing that this article points out that I want people to understand. There is a witness who claims that she lives in the building next to the RNC. Okay. And she went out. She has to leave her building to go around to the laundry room that's in the basement of the building. So she has to walk outside and go around. Well, she goes outside the building and walks around to put her laundry into the machines. She goes back up to her apartment, and then a little while later, she goes and walks back in that same path and gets in and goes to go get her stuff. And she was the one that supposedly found the device outside the RNC. Now, according to her statements that we've been able to grab, and they can mention this in the article, I believe, or even Dan mentions it on his show, that she actually did not see the bomb the first time. She saw it the second time. So the question has to be asked, if she was able to see it on the second trip and not the first one, was it really there the first trip? Or was it planted sometime in between? Because the DNC one was planted 17 hours earlier. We don't have any video of the RNC device that I'm aware of yet in terms of out in public sphere. This is all questionable. All of this is suspect. And it makes me actually think that I've been reluctant to essentially talk about or to be a part of the conspiracy group talking about the deep state. But when you start adding all of these little circumstances up, there is a lot of what lawyers would call circumstantial evidence that would point to a coordinated effort to smear Donald Trump, to make Donald Trump the enemy, and to make sure that he does not get back into the White House again. Which again, all makes me wonder, what the hell does he have or know about these people that are going to, that is causing them to do all of this? What is it about him? And that just makes me a lot more curious about the situation. And it definitely makes me a lot more curious and a lot less, or I should say, a lot more reluctant to believe that this man is as evil as what they say. Now, again, I've said it on this program multiple times. His personal life, you got to kind of take that out. His political life, he has done great things for this country. And so as a politician, I would support him. I may not like him personally. I may not like what he's done in the past. I may not even agree with some of his decisions that he's made as a part of political office. But you can't deny the results that this man has been getting and the things that he has been doing, not only here within the U.S., but also out in the rest of the world. All right. I have one more thing to bring up for tonight. And I thank you for hanging on. I notice I'm a little over time, but the left keeps talking about how the right are the ones who are racist, who are misogynist, who are the evil ones. Okay. And I can tell you that unions, for the most part, I won't say all unions, but for the most part, most unions back Democrats. Okay. It's just a plain and simple fact. They contribute to Democrat politicians. They advocate Democrat causes. They are really not necessarily Republican driven. Okay. And just give me a second. I got to say hello to Alexander Lee over on the YouTube. Just popped in, said hello. Hello, Alex. I'm going to assume Alex is okay. Not necessarily Alexander, but we'll go ahead and say Alexander. Hello, Alexander. All right. Now, the problem here, though, is that even though the Democrats talk about Republicans being bad and being racist and being misogynistic and being against, persons of color, I've shown you on multiple times on this program how, at least for the Latino population, and it's starting to kind of take over in the African-American population as well, that a lot of people are starting to go from the Democrat Party over to the Republicans. And one of the claims that the Republicans keep making is that the Democrats and those organizations that support them are trying to bring up things like CRT, critical race theory, which in and of itself is a form of reverse racism. Okay. Because it's designed to train children to hate the color of their skin, and that white people are to be blamed for all of the things that have happened to them in the past. Now, that historically, that might ring true, but it definitely doesn't ring true in the 2000s, in the years here in the US that most of these kids and most of the people alive can't necessarily go all the way back and claim that they know about what happened during the civil rights era and all this other stuff. I mean, Martin Luther King in his famous speech said that I dream of a time when my daughter can be judged not by the content of her, or not by the color of her skin, but by the content of her character. And I know I probably mincemeated that quote, so I'm paraphrasing. But that being said, I have yet to see an incredible display of pure racism, or in this case, a reverse racism, an application of what Ibram X. Kendi has thrown out, than this right here. Take a look at this article by the Post Millennial. A Minneapolis school district defends a plan that will fire white teachers first. So meaning that if they have to shrink their payroll or their size, they essentially will fire white people first and keep persons of color around. Now, if this had something to do with some kind of merit other than an immutable characteristic such as skin color or even hair color or eye color, we don't even have to look at skin color anymore. We just look at anything that has to deal with an immutable characteristic that somebody cannot be blamed for having. Okay. Then if it has to deal with merit, I can understand it. Hey, you know what? The worst at the ones at the bottom who are the worst, they get cut. That's just the way it is. That would be considered fair and legal. This is not legal. I'm sorry. This violates not only the Constitution, but it also violates the civil rights of those individuals. It violates the Civil Rights Act. It is a violation of federal and apparently, from what I've heard, Minnesota state law as well. So I don't even understand how these people are going to be able to continue this, honestly. But realistically, I fully expect that we will be seeing lawsuits if somebody gets fired under this plan, or you'll see a retraction from the school district sometime in the near future. This is just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. End of story. I can't explain it any more than that. If you're being let go because you are not capable or just skating by or something along those lines, I'm good with that. But you cannot go and release somebody just because of an immutable characteristic that they have no control over. That is against the law, and that's flat out what this is. This is pure racism. I don't even want to call it reverse racism because it's not reverse racism. It is actual racism. Now, the district has argued on multiple occasions that the policy is going to remedy the continuing effects of past discrimination. I am asking anyone within the sound of my voice in this video, prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were enslaved in any point in time in your life. And I'm not talking about just I happen to grow up in the wrong side of town. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about somebody physically came, grabbed you, and enslaved you. Okay. Now, if you're a person coming across the border, there is that happens. We've got child trafficking. We've got sex trafficking, criminal trafficking of these people who are coming through different parts of not only the southern border, but also from other countries coming over here. That has been shown. All of that is illegal. What I'm talking about is if you have ever been held as a slave, then you might have a claim to get some sort of reparation out of the person who did that to you. But you do not have a claim to say that I deserve reparations no matter what. That isn't the case. You're here in America. You have an opportunity. You have the greatest opportunity in the world. You are in a first world country with all kinds of opportunities that essentially can get laid at your feet. There is absolutely no excuse, outside of your own responsibility for not being able to succeed. Not necessarily be famous, not necessarily be a millionaire, but to succeed. Our lowest people, the people who we consider living on the low end of the spectrum, have it infinitely better than probably, I think the statistic was something like 80% of people living in poverty throughout the world. Just by the fact that you are here in this country is enough of an opportunity. It's all about what you do with that opportunity. It's all about the effort that you put into that opportunity, the things that you try and do, the help that you get. There is so much available here that to sit here and believe in any shape or form, any kind of situation that you are being oppressed just because of the color of your skin in this country, in today's world, in 2000 and above, this is crazy. This is nuts. This is stupid. And you are being completely uneducated and have a lack of drive or desire to become what you want to become. There is so much that is available here in this United States, regardless of what you've been told as it being a racist nation. It's not. We're not even close. We're not even close. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and this is my final Whiskey Musings thought for the evening. Do me a favor, if you like the program, if you like what I do, and you would like to follow me consistently, you can do so either on my social media. They've been popping up over here when I've been on this screen. The other thing is you can also make sure that you come on over to one of my outlets. I do stream on YouTube and Facebook, although I don't get a lot of a following there. My greatest following is over on Rumble. That is the free speech alternative to YouTube. Just come on over, sign up, and then find me, Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and get a subscription. I appreciate that. Also, I do an audio-only version of this live that gets posted essentially almost immediately. If you wanted to just listen to the live broadcast, you can do it on Spreaker, Spreaker. But it will forward over to Spotify, Google Podcasts, and also, iHeartRadio. There we go. So it will actually go out that way as well. It'll post there shortly after the live is completed and Spreaker's been able to clean it up and send it out. Okay. So again, do me a favor, come on over to and subscribe. This weekend, don't forget, I've got the exclusive interview with Jay Money from the Mark K Show. He is the engineer, producer extraordinaire who presses all the buttons and makes Mark sound absolutely wonderful on the radio for all of Mark's outlets. And that's going to be an explosive interview. I'm first time for him to be interviewed by someone. So this is going to be awesome. And I appreciate everyone who showed up. Thank you all very much. And we'll see you Saturday on the Whiskey Musings broadcast at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.